Almost 200 years after French physicist Jean Peltier discovered that electric current flowing through the junction to different metals could be used to produce a heating or cooling effect, researchers say it is time to step up efforts to find new materials for the thermoelectric cooling market.
A team has developed Smellcopter, an autonomous drone that uses a live antenna from a mouth to navigate toward the smell. The Smellcopter can sense and avoid obstacles as it travels through the air.
The transition from the brick and mortar structure to click and order model started with the emergence of information technology and its use in the financial sector. The use of technology in banking has resulted in the availability of multiple delivery channels like customers, telebanking, internet banking, and mobile banking. The preparation of abstracts is an intellectual effort, requiring a general familiarity with the subject. To bring out the salient points of an author's argument calls for skills and experience. Consequently, a considerable amount of qualified manpower that could be used to advantage in other ways must be diverted to the task of facilitating access to information.
Modern science says the sun is the past, the earth is the present, the moon is the future. From an incandescent mass, we have originated, and into a frozen mass we shall turn. Merciless is the law of nature, and rapidly and irresistibly we are drawn to our doom.
Having the same dream, again and again, is a well-known phenomenon. Nearly two-thirds of the population report having recurring dreams, being chased, finding yourself naked in a public place, or in the middle of a natural disaster, losing your teeth, or forgetting to go to class for an entire semester are typical recurring scenarios in these dreams.
As a child, you might dream one day of becoming an astronaut and the next day of becoming a ballet dancer. The possibilities are endless. Eventually, this wealth of choice is whittled down by external circumstances and internal interests. Similarly, precursor cells in early embryos make a series of stepwise decisions governed by external forces and internal factors to generate the diverse array of cell types present in adult organisms.
This speaker reminisces about his views of the English Revolution when he was a student and how it seemed quite clear which side he was on then, the aristocrats, not the Puritans. Later, he realized there was more to it than that, and there were several ways of interpreting the Revolution as a struggle between the king and Parliament, as a class war, as an unpredictable situation without clear sides. Nell says that, in order to seek protection from their foes, birds actually prefer to build their nests in plots of swamp with a resident alligator. In fact, in one study, a graduate student planted fake alligators. The birds seemed to prefer to build nests close to them. Where there's a water source, there are alligators, so it's sort of this mode of protection around these colonies.
Over time, a split would have appeared in wolf populations. He says those wolves that feared humans and those that didn't, so this would have facilitated, I think, the domestication process, at which point humans deliberately took wolves as pets. But that domestication process, France says, may have happened more than once, first in the West, in Europe, and again in the Far East in Asia.
Every morning, no matter how late he had been up, my father rose at 5:30, went to his study, wrote for a couple of hours, made us all breakfast, read the paper with my mother, and then went back to work for the rest of the morning. Many years passed before I realized that he did this by choice, for a living, and that he was not unemployed or mentally ill. The purpose of the informative speech is to provide interesting, useful, and unique information to your audience. By dedicating yourself to the goals of providing information and appealing to your audience, you can take a positive step towards succeeding in your efforts as an informative speaker.
Human activities are exposing these rivers and streams to a cocktail of salts, with consequences for infrastructure and drinking water supplies. So reports a new study that is the first to assess the combined long-term changes in freshwater salinity and alkalization across the country.
For any marketing course that requires the development of a marketing plan, such as marketing management, marketing strategy, and segmentation support marketing, this is the only planning handbook that guides students through the step-by-step creation a customized marketing plan while offering commercial software to aid in the process. The semiconductor industry has been able to improve the performance of electronic systems for more than 4 decades by making ever smaller devices. However, this approach will soon encounter both scientific and technical limits, which is why industry is exploring a number of alternative device technologies.
There is no single method of learning that guarantees success. How we learn depends on many different factors, and what works best for you will not necessarily be the same as the approach used for the other students even they study the same course. We are all unique as learners, although some patterns emerge from any groups of students.
Organelles are the biggest difference between bacteria and cells that make up the human body organelles. You are a eukaryote. Your cells are eukaryotic. Eukaryotic cells contain membrane-bound organelles, including a nucleus. Eukaryotes can be single-celled or multi-celled, such as you, plants, fungi, and insects.
In the spirit of comparative immunology, Baker and her colleagues looked at how another mammal, the black flying fox, a type of bat, handles infections. They sequenced its immunity genes and observed the immune response in normal bat cells, and they found that unlike us, the bats always have interferons on Petrol.
Different types of maternal homework assistance have a different impact on the child's way of completing school assignments in grades 2 to 4 of elementary school, according to a new study. Although all homework assistance presumably aims at helping the child, not all types of homework assistance led equally positive outcomes. Japan's parliament tightened limits on overtime hours, responding to concerns about kushi, or death by overwork, and seeking to improve productivity in a country where long hours are more a custom than business necessity.
Teenage girls are continuing to outperform boys in English while the gender gap in achievements in math and science has almost disappeared. The figures show that last year 80% of 14-year-old girls reached at least the expected level 5 in English, compared with 65% of boys. But in math, the girls are just 1% ahead of boys, while in science the difference is 2%.
Tourism is a challenging sector, on which divides statistics since businesses serving tourists also service local people. Therefore, it is not straightforward to estimate how much business sector's revenues and how many jobs are due to tourist expenditures. For the first 2 or 3 years after the Second World War, a new title would often sell out within a few months of publication. However, unless public demand for the book was unusually high, they were rarely able to reprint it. With paper stocks strictly rationed, they could not afford to use a precious paper or tie up their limited capital with a reprint.
Weakness in electronics. Auto and gas station sales dragged down overall retail sales last month. But excluding those three categories, retailers enjoyed healthy increases across the board, according to government figures released Wednesday. Moreover, December sales numbers were also revised higher.
in comparing material with non-material culture, the first being the objects and technologies we create, and the second our customs, beliefs and attitudes, the speaker gives greater emphasis to the material culture. He gives the example of the development of genetic science and the benefits it has brought to mankind, despite a fair amount of opposition.